It's too stubborn. There are some pry points on a KDX. It's usually not too hard to get the clutch cover off here. And there'll be a lot of stuff you can repair once this is off, and a lot of you guys will be going this far. Now the governor just fell out. Don't worry about that. It just sits in there. It just sits right in there. And there's the little finger I was talking about on the end of the shaft. I don't know if you can see it or not. So there's your exhaust valve governor. There's your water pump drive shaft. There's your inner clutch cover. We're still going to take that apart a little further, but I'm going to set it aside for now until... That's a stubborn boot. We're going to put it aside until we get a little further, just to keep our room cleaned up. Our work area clean. The worst thing you can do is just start piling stuff everywhere and dropping stuff and not knowing what it is. That's not a good feeling. Guide pins may pull out, may not pull out. General rule of thumb for me is to give them a tug. If they come out, then take them out because they're going to fall out in the parts washer. The kick shaft spring already popped out, but it just sits in that hole right there. So if you're fixing your kick shaft, this is as far as you came, and there it is. It's going to have a shim behind it. Most Kawasaki's do, most Hondas don't. There's your shift shaft. And here is the idler gear. Pretty much everything has a kick idle gear in there somewhere or another. Yeah, these things are a little tricky because they're so thin and you can only barely get the darn tips of your split ring tool in there. Oh, come on. Same size pliers I always use, some are just easier than others, and that's going to be a tough one. Yeah, I might just get a little smaller set. Maybe we'll need it a little tighter. Like I said, there's just no depth to work with there. Well, I gotta tell you, I generally don't have this much trouble. Dang eyes aren't as good as they used to be either. Well, that's a stubborn one. Well, the other ones don't seem to fit it any better. So we'll go back to the same ones that did the last 20 motors. Oh, come on. Jeez. boy. Alright, that doesn't seem to be working. That really truly is a tough one. Let's see if we can just pry that clip out a little bit. Get the tip in there a little further. That's all it took. KDX is going to have a shim front and back. So there's the kick idle gear, there's the kick shaft. Keep the work area clean there. The spring on the shift mechanism is not real tight. And that's only for the little indent thing, the little arm with a roller on the end of it. Don't take the one off the shift shaft. That whole shift shaft's going to come off in one piece. If we take it off now, we might leak some oil on the other side. Don't feel like doing that too much, so we'll wait. This would be a hard one to get off without air. But I'm sure it's doable. And those generally slide off by just pulling right on them. Might have to use a little bit of a pry bar on them. These generally come off pretty easy. Just a little tiny tap with a lady slipper pry bar. I want to get that key out of there too. Or it's probably going to get lost. Another handy tool, a little magnetic probe. Boy, does that work good. So there's the primary crank gear that came off pretty easy. Might as well pull off the turret for the 12 shift drum. Well, let's wait just 1 second. I got a third magnetic pan here I'm going to use. I got the first one with general bolts, the second one clutch parts. This one I put the little shift drum parts in. And we want to, maybe we'll pull this little guy off here now. Just so the spring doesn't fall off. Because now with this in about any 2-stroke motor or 4-stroke motor, there comes a point to where you got it down this far. Here's the bottom of the pan here, and there's still going to be about maybe not a half pint, maybe a little less than that. There's a pretty good slug of oil down in there. And now is the time. I got my oil drain pan ready, and I'm just going to tip that motor over, all the way over on its side, on the right hand side, and get that last bit of oil out. by getting the cylinder and all that good stuff off there, the flywheel, all that, this motor's only going to weigh about 20 pounds now, so it's real easy. Just hold it here for 30 seconds or so until the big drip stops. That's pretty much the big drips. Take your trusty paper towel and stuff it down in there. Little motor tampon is what that is. And I just barely pushed on the other side of that shift shaft. It's going to pop right out. So if you're fixing your shift shaft, piece of cake. Leave all the springs on there. If they do come off, they're easy to put back together. Believe me, this isn't brain surgery or I wouldn't be doing it. And the first one of these I did, I actually was a little bit nervous. That's going to have some Loctite on it, so you're going to have to snap that pretty hard if you're not using air, and make sure you use a nice 6-point socket. You'll regret it. If you're splitting the cases, the turret has to come off, and this is every bike I've ever done, every modern 2-stroke bike. You've got to take that piece off there now. If you wait till later, till the cases are split, there's no way that shift drum's going to be turning as you try to break the bolt, and you're going to screw something up. So now is the time to get that off there. It has to come off. You're going to see some other bolts up here. These are bearing retainers. We're not going to mess with those. These bolts over here are just holding a clip. These bolts are holding a clip. The stud here, there's no reason to take that off unless yours is broken, obviously, but for general maintenance reasons or repairing your motor, whatever you're doing, there's no reason to pull that stud out of there. It doesn't go to anything on the other side that's going to keep you from splitting the cases. And there's the back of the motor. There's nothing there, so that was exactly one revolution. The motor oil is, it's been tipped on the side of that last little bit of residual oil drained. We got our tampon in there. So let's go ahead and take the bolts out, but hold the two cases together. And I really like my little Matco 1/4-inch air ratchet for this, but boy does that thing take the air. That compressor would kick on for about every 10th pull. That's pretty ridiculous. It uses like 10 times the air. I don't quite know why. Now it would have been good if your motor's really greasy to go ahead and take a putty knife. I suppose you could even pressure wash the thing if you sealed the intake and exhaust up real good, but get all that loose gunk off the outside of the motor. This one wasn't bad. There was really no reason to do it. I pressure washed the bike, which you should obviously do before you ever magnetic tool again. Get the bike clean before you ever even start Teardown. But if your motor's really caked, and there's a lot of them that are going to be, you want to get the junk off there now. Just throw an old rag down, some newspaper, whatever, scrape it down, lift it off the table, throw it away, do it again, whatever. There's no reason to split a super dirty case unless you're going to throw it in the trash can when you're done. And also, I've done it a couple times. There will be another bolt head embedded in grease, and it'll be filled in such a way that it just looks like there's no bolt there, and you're trying to split your case thinking, what the heck? And the case shouldn't split that hard. At that point, you want to stop and do a double check, because you probably got a bolt in there somewhere. And we, my friend, are ready to split the cases. I got this one on eBay, where I just about use it all the time, even on the motors that do have pry points, of which the KDX H series really doesn't have good pry points. But I've had motors come apart like butter. And it's still taking longer to slide them off those guide pins and this and that. And they're hanging up here and hanging up there. Just taking a couple minutes to set this thing up is worth the couple minutes it takes, because it saves so much fooling around, because this really pushes where you need to push without damaging anything. And if you don't have pry points like on a KDX, you're gonna screw something up. So I got this one on eBay. I think it was maybe $60 shipped. It's worth $60. You're gonna be buying a motor case from me for more than $60 if you don't use one. I wouldn't try it without it. Again, this is something else. I bought the air and I bought the splitter and the few special tools that I actually do need. Which that big pair of vice grip clutch holder pliers, I think I've used maybe twice in 3 years. So I don't remember exactly what I paid for those, $20-30. So save your money and put it towards an air compressor. You just want to get your bolts evenly spaced as you can. They don't have to be perfectly symmetrical on a KDX. They're not going to be. And then you want to get the shaft of the crank pretty close to being in the center of the tube. This is a universal, and so there's quite a bit of slop there. I wouldn't want to push on the very edge of the crankshaft. You might damage something, so take a minute to get that centered up. And just snug. Make sure your bolts go in an inch or so. Like the case, like the cover case, the cover bolts would. And as you're cranking this down, obviously you want to make sure that the pusher bolt isn't already bottomed out. You want to make sure that you're tight to the mating surface, the gasket surface. And we're just going to set the impact on about medium there. Here comes a little slug of motor oil. Not bad. That's what the rags are there for. A little bit of something here to soak it up. She's splitting, and they almost always catch down here, and this one is no exception. So gently give it a much needed little boost here. There's a big guide pin, and that's the far side of the motor from where you're pushing. And it's got to split evenly. If it's not splitting evenly, you got to loosen this up and see why. Alright, we're pretty close. Yeah, this case splitter tool is worth the money. I'd have to recommend that. You know, the right tool for the right job, $60 is not that much when you consider the cost of a case. You use it once and didn't ruin your case, you pretty much paid for it. Now, KDX, there's not going to be too much over here on the drive chain side that's going to stay up inside the case as far as shims. Got a couple little O-rings that seal the transmission shaft along with a little sleeve. Pretty standard on any two-stroke. There's the left case. Again, like I said, there's really no shims or anything to worry about. One of the axles pulled out for the shift forks. There's the first piece. Put that in the oil drain pan. Which you do want the shift forks to pull out. You gotta get you want the axles to pull out, I mean. You know what I mean. You gotta get the forks out of there before you pull the transmission. The shifter I'm just gonna lift out of there now because we got the turret off the other end. But yeah, there's really no shims to worry about on the side of the motor as far as the transmission. Since we've got it laying over on the right side, nothing's gonna fall out until we're ready for it. We are ready. Try to bring both shafts out at the same time. The motor kind of level so they're neutral. And there's the first one. The second one. There's a good time to check for any shims. Use your fingernail, make sure that that's the end of the sleeve or the bearing or whatever, and not a shim. Now, I don't care if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger and you had a bad day, you are not going to beat this crankshaft out of here without ruining something. So please don't try it. I've got bigger hammers. I'm not going to use them. The only way that's going to come out of there is with a hydraulic press. Who has a hydraulic press? I don't. But I have a buddy that does. So I just take him over there. He lets me use his press. They come out really, really easy. Just, I don't know, they're butter with a hydraulic press. No resistance. It doesn't even seem like. And it seems like it takes so little effort with the hydraulic press that there's no reason to use a hydraulic press. Heck, you can tap those out. No, you can't. Trust me, I've tried. You can't do it. You just have to press them out. So, see your neighborhood mechanic, automotive shop. They're going to have a hydraulic press. Every auto shop has a press. If they charge you more than $10, they're screwing you. Yeah, looks like we need a refill. Hope y'all didn't think this was a 5-minute video. And you see, since it's a free video, there's not a big budget for editing. So smoke them if you got them. Our work area is clean. We're ready to take on. Well, let's go ahead and do the inner clutch cover, because that won't be too bad. Just take a second. Little Phillips head screw there. A couple choices. First choice, put that away. Don't even think about it. I've had pretty good luck using impact screwdriver. Number 2 tip, and no hammer. It just seems that sometimes that spring is just enough to be enough to not strip the head out, and that one's gonna strip if I push on it. So you're gonna need a pretty small setup, a needle nose vice grips, if you're pulling the shaft out for the exhaust valve. And that head looks kind of stripped out, like it's been apart before and maybe chewed up a little bit at that time. And this can be a little bit tedious because it's a machine head. It does not have a good surface to grab. Had it worked before, but we can try just a little light tap with the impact screwdriver. Any more than a little tap's gonna definitely destroy it. That was enough. But yeah, generally speaking, on a KDX, I found that just using the impact screwdriver, just the added down force and the cushion of that spring and just the weight of the impact driver, that usually just pops them right out. So we got the little screw out. We're going to set that aside. There's going to be another little guide pin. That's what the screw was holding. You got to get the shaft kind of neutral. It moves up and down a little bit. You want to get it kind of in the middle of that. A little bit of penetrance often helpful. It might have a little bit of motor oil or spooge or something down in it. And hopefully with that thing being just neutral, you just turn it over and give it a sharp wrap. It's going to pop right out of there. And there it is. Gotta have that out. Or oot, as y'all say in Minnesota. And these screws probably have a little bit of Loctite on them.